The colony of Haven 12 sat on the edge of explored space. It was a harsh world. Cold winds swept across endless plains of silver grass. Massive mountains surrounded the settlement, and beyond those mountains lay wilderness so dangerous that few colonists ever ventured there. Yet, Haven 12 thrived. Humans, traders, scientists, and dozens of alien species called it home. Most days were peaceful. Most days, the alarm began shortly after sunrise. Emergency beacons flashed across the colony's central district. Citizens stopped what they were doing. Stores owners stepped outside. Workers abandoned loading docks. Even security officers looked nervous. Something unusual was happening. A transport vehicle had arrived at the medical center. The vehicle belonged to the Raxories. Every species in the galaxy knew the Raxories, massive feline predators, fast, strong, intelligent, dangerous. Entire military academies studied their combat tactics. While the Raxori were respected members of the Galactic Alliance, most species still felt uneasy around them, especially when their young were involved. The rear doors of the transport opened. 3 small figures emerged. The crowd immediately backed away, not because the cubs looked threatening, because they looked injured. The smallest limped heavily. Another had blood staining his shoulder. The third carried deep scratches across his side. They couldn't have been older than 7 cycles. Tiny compared to adult Raxori. Yet nobody moved closer. Nobody offered help. Nobody said a word. Fear hung in the air. Predator cubs were unpredictable. At least that was the popular belief. One wrong movement, one sudden sound, one misunderstood gesture. Most species preferred keeping their distance. The cubs noticed. Of course they noticed. Children always notice. The smallest lowered his ears. The second looked at the ground. The third attempted to appear brave. But his trembling tail betrayed him. The crowd continued watching. Nobody stepped forward. Then someone pushed through the gathering. A human woman, Dr. Emma Carter, chief physician of Haven 12. Emma had spent 15 years working frontier colonies. She had treated everything from plasma burns to venomous alien bites. Little surprised her anymore. She looked at the cubs, then at the crowd, then back at the cubs. What happened? The oldest cub blinked. You aren't afraid? Emma frowned. You're injured. The cub seemed confused. Yes, then why would I be afraid? The crowd exchanged uncomfortable glances. To Emma, the answer seemed obvious. Injured children needed help. Species didn't matter. The smallest cub suddenly swayed. His legs nearly gave out. Emma reacted instantly. She crossed the distance before anyone could stop her. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Several security officers instinctively reached for their weapons. The cub froze. Emma knelt beside him. Easy. Her voice softened. Let's get you inside. The cub stared. His large golden eyes widened. Nobody had ever spoken to him like that. Outside his family's, slowly, carefully, Emma lifted him into her arms. Nothing happened, no attack, no aggression. Just a frightened child desperately trying not to cry. The crowd stood silent. Emma looked over her shoulder. Well? Nobody answered. The physician sighed. Then I suppose I'll carry him myself. She walked toward the medical center. The other 2 cubs immediately followed, like ducklings following a parent. The crowd simply watched. Unsure what to think, inside the clinic, Emma got her first real look at the injuries. The situation was worse than expected. Bruises covered their bodies. Several cuts required treatment. 1 cub had a fractured arm. The smallest suffered a partially dislocated shoulder. Emma's expression darkened. How did this happen? The cubs exchanged nervous glances. Nobody answered. That bothered her. Children rarely stayed silent, unless they were afraid. Emma sat down, moved her gloves. Anne spoke gently. You're safe here. Still nothing. Several minutes passed. Finally, the oldest cub spoke. It was the storm. Emma wasn't convinced. What storm? The mountain storm. The explanation sounded rehearsed. Too rehearsed. Emma had seen frightened children before. Many times. Something felt wrong. But she focused on treatment first. Questions could wait. For hours she worked, cleaning wounds, repairing injuries, applying medical patches. The cubs never complained, never cried, never resisted treatment. In fact, they seemed amazed. The smallest eventually fell asleep, while Emma wrapped his shoulder. That alone told her something. Children don't fall asleep around people they fear. By evening, the cubs were resting comfortably. Emma expected their parents to arrive. None did. That worried her. Raxori families were famously protective. If 3 cubs appeared injured, parents usually arrived immediately. Yet nobody came. Not that night, not the next morning, or the day after. Instead, a government representative appeared, Administrator Koran. A tall reptilian official known for avoiding difficult situations. Emma disliked him immediately. Where are their families? Koran's shifted uncomfortably. The matter is complicated. Emma folded her arms. Complicated how? The administrator hesitated, then sighed. The cubs are from Bloodclaw Pack. The room became quiet. Even Emma recognized the name. Bloodclaw Pack was infamous. A powerful Raxori clan living beyond the colony borders. Most settlers avoided them. Stories surrounded the pack. Some true, some exaggerated. All unpleasant. Continue, Emma said. Karan looked away. Their parents died several months ago. Emma's expression softened. Orphans. That explains some things. Who's caring for them? The administrator hesitated again. No one. Emma stared. What? The pack rejected them. The physician felt anger rising. Rejected children? They consider them weak. The words sounded disgusting. Even Karan seemed ashamed. Emma looked toward the sleeping cubs. Weak? One had a broken arm, another barely walked properly. The smallest still woke from nightmares. What kind of people abandon children? That evening she learned the truth. Not from officials. From the cubs themselves. The smallest was named Rico. The oldest was Taran. The third cub answered to Kesh. Slowly, piece by piece, their story emerged. The injuries weren't from a storm. They came from older pack members, training accidents, punishments. Stealths, cruel traditions disguised as lessons. Whenever the cubs failed, they were beaten. Whenever they struggled, they were mocked. Eventually, they were abandoned entirely. Emma listened silently, her hands clenched into fists. The cubs spoke as though everything was normal. That made it worse. Much worse. Children should never think cruelty is normal. 3 days later, the situation exploded. A group of Bloodclaw warriors arrived at Haven 12. Huge, scared, intimidating. They marched directly toward the medical center. Citizens quickly moved aside. Nobody wanted trouble. The warriors entered without knocking. Their leader towered above everyone. His name was Vorak, Alpha of Bloodclaw Pack, his golden eyes fixed on the cubs. Immediately the children shrank backward. Fear filled the room. Emma noticed. That told her everything. Good children don't fear good adults. Vorak pointed toward the cubs. Those belong to us. Emma stepped forward. No. The Alpha blinked. No, they aren't objects. The warriors growled. Emma didn't move. I've treated their injuries. Vorak's expression hardened. That was not your concern. It became my concern when someone hurt children. The room became dangerously quiet. Security officers outside watched nervously. Everyone expected Emma to back down. She didn't. Vorak took a step closer, towering over her. The difference in size was ridiculous. Emma barely reached his chest. Still, she refused to move. You challenge my authority? Emma met his gaze. I challenge anyone who hurts children. The Alpha looked genuinely shocked. Not angry, confused, as though no one had ever spoken to him this way. Perhaps nobody had. Several tense seconds passed. Then something unexpected happened. Rico, the smallest cub, moved. He stepped behind Emma. Using her as a shield, the room froze. Vorak froze. The warriors froze. The gesture was tiny, but its meaning was enormous. The cub trusted the human more than his own pack. Everyone understood what that meant. For the first time, uncertainty appeared in the Alpha's eyes. Days passed, then weeks. The cubs remained with Emma. Official investigations began. Stories emerged. Witnesses came forward. Former pack members testified. The truth became impossible to ignore. Bloodclaw traditions weren't strength. They were abuse. Public opinion shifted rapidly. Across the colony, citizens who once feared the cubs began visiting, bringing gifts, food, games, books. The children slowly transformed. Rico laughed more. Kesh made friends. Terran stopped flinching whenever adults entered rooms. Small victories, but important ones. Emma watched it happen and smiled. Then came the attack. Not from Bloodclaw. From the wilderness, a massive razor beast breached the colony perimeter. The creature stood 4 meters tall, covered in armored scales. Driven mad by hunger. Emergency alarms echoed across Haven 12. Citizens evacuated. Security forces responded. The beast smashed through barricades, dieted vehicles, injured several officers. Chaos spread. Emma rushed toward the medical wing. The cubs followed. Stay inside, she ordered. Naturally, they ignored her. Children were universal that way. Outside, security teams struggled. The beast was too powerful. Too fast. Then a transport crashed nearby. A civilian family became trapped beneath debris. The monster turned toward them. People screamed. Nobody could reach them in time. Except someone could. 3 small figures sprinted forward. Rico, Kesh, Terran. The cubs moved without hesitation, without fear, without thinking about themselves. Exactly as Emma had taught them. Help people, protect others. Do what's right. The beast roared. The cubs stood their ground. Not because they could win. Because someone needed help. Emma's heart nearly stopped. Then something incredible happened. A massive shape landed between the cubs and the monster. Vorak, the Bloodclaw Alpha. Behind him came dozens of warriors. The entire pack. For one moment nobody moved. Then Vorak attacked. The battle was brutal, fast, violent. The Alpha fought like a living storm. His warriors followed. Together, they drove the beast away from the civilians. Security forces joined the assault. Minutes later, the creature finally collapsed. The colony was safe. Silence followed. Everyone looked toward Vorak. The Alpha turned slowly, facing the cubs, facing Emma. For a long moment nobody spoke. Then Vorak lowered his head. A gesture of respect. Gasps echoed throughout the crowd. An Alpha bowing publicly was almost unheard of. His voice carried across the settlement. I was wrong. Nobody expected those words, especially from him. Vorak looked at the cubs. The weak were never the children. The crowd listened. The Alpha continued. The weak were those who mistook cruelty for strength. Tears filled Kesh's eyes. Rico hugged Emma's leg. Terran stood taller than ever before. Vorak stepped closer, not as a warrior, not as an alpha, as someone trying to become better. The human taught us something we forgot. Emma remained silent. Vorak looked toward his warriors, then toward the colony, then toward the cubs. Strength protects. His voice grew softer. It does not harm. For the first time in their lives, the cubs heard genuine regret, real remorse, and perhaps real change. Years later, people still told the story. Not about the battle, not about the monster, not even about the alpha. They told stories about a human physician, a woman who saw 3 injured predator cubs, a woman who noticed everyone backing away, a woman who chose to step forward instead. Because that's what humanity often did. Where others saw dangerous predators, humans saw frightened children. Where others saw fear, humans saw responsibility. Where others walked away, humans stayed, and in doing so, one human changed not only 3 lives, she changed an entire pack, perhaps even an entire species. All because she refused to back away when 3 injured cubs needed someone to care.